Hey everyone, this is Tyler. I wanted to give you a bit of an update before this episode of the podcast started. Basically, I am uploading some of the episodes that Gabe and I had recorded, but I never got around to uploading. So the podcast started to fizzle out around the middle of 2023 with just things in life happening and us getting really busy. But these last few episodes were recorded in the spring of that year. I would still love to create content in the future on this channel and podcast platform, and I am hopeful that myself and hopefully Gabe as well will return in some capacity in the future. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy these last few episodes that we recorded as they conclude our discussions on the first arc of Vinland Saga. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Pages of Light podcast, your destination for discussions of popular fantasy and science fiction novels from a Christian worldview. My name is Tyler, aka Verum, and with me, as always, is Gabriel, aka the Quarantine Quartermaster. Welcome back to the podcast, Gabe. How are you on this fine evening?
Doing well. Good to be back, ready to do another recording tonight. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes. It's always good to come back and record. We've kind of been off a few weeks because we had some sicknesses, and I don't remember the last week I was out because I got sick, and then I don't remember what happened the week before, but yeah, we just haven't recorded in a minute, so it's good to come back. And yeah, as always, make sure you follow Pages of Light on our social platforms. We're on YouTube if you want to go over there and subscribe, so you can check out the video version and also the other videos I have up there on the channel. And you can also check us out at pagesoflight.com and see what's going on over there. And in this episode, we are going to be doing Vinland Saga, chapters 29 to 35, which is book 3 in the hardcover, which... Actually, is that even the right chapter numbers? Or is that from last time? No, that's wrong. See, that's wrong. My notes are wrong from last time. We're actually doing chapters 36 to 42, which is the end of the hardcover, book 3. So, shame on me for not updating my notes. But that's what we're going that's what we're going to be doing. So 36 to 42, so the end of book 3 in the hardcover if you have that edition. And yeah, how are you feeling about we're 3 books in. What is your are you excited to continue Vinland Saga, or are you kind of like I'm done with Vinland Saga, I've had enough?
Listen, it's fun. This is a fun book. I've just really gotten into the story, and like the characters are so interesting. I just love like how there's just like any good like anime or manga, there's always like these different powerhouses, and they always seem like invincible, or like, and then they clash, and you're like, I don't know how this is gonna play out. Like, I just don't understand who's gonna win in this situation.
Yep.
And that's like Thorfinn, Thorkel. It kind of reminds me of like Game of Thrones, like the Viper versus the Mountain. Like fight, you got the small agile guy versus like the powerhouse bulky guy. So yeah, this is a fun series. I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely enjoying it, and I'm loving the different characters and just seeing their different arcs and how they change as characters. Like we get a big shift in Prince Canute in this series of chapters,
which you called in the last episode.
Yeah, I was expecting something to happen with Prince Canute, so I'm excited that actually did happen, and because I feel like he's definitely a character where I feel like he could have a lot of impact in the story in different ways and on different characters. So
I got a new nickname for him.
Yeah, what's your new nickname? Or are you saving it for later in the podcast?
I'm gonna save it.
All right, you're gonna save it. So stay tuned for later in the episode, where Gabe's gonna reveal his special nickname for Prince Canute.
I have to write it down so I don't forget it.
Or you can stay tuned. Or you can stay tuned and watch
I'll
Gabe.
Embarrass myself.
Watch Gabe forget what his special nickname for Prince Canute is.
All right, no peeking. I'm gonna put it at the bottom of our list here.
Okay. All right, so while Gabe puts his super secret nickname into the notes, as always, we're going to start off with our favorite quote, and I guess I'll kick it off. And so my favorite quote is from Prince Canute, Speak of the Devil, and this is from a scene where he is... A lot of this section of the series is Prince Canute kind of having this like shift in mindset and this shift in his... it seems like his whole personality is going to be having a dramatic shift where he's going from the reserved kind of don't want to say anything to step on people's toes, don't want to make a mistake, to the outspoken, like I'm going to say what I believe regardless of what people think about it. So it seems like it's going to be like a dramatic shift in his character. And so we'll talk about that in a minute and later in the podcast. But so my favorite quote is kind of from this whole kind of part of the book. And so the quote is, he says, "You're saying that the essence of love is death?" And this is when he's talking to the priest. And
why'd you choose this quote?
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because, as we'll talk about later in the podcast when we kind of get into in deep on his kind of revelations here, I feel like he says a lot of things that have truth to them, but he's maybe missing some things with some of his revelations. But I do think for this particular quote, he is hitting on something that has an element of truth to it, which just being that the essence of love, part of the essence of love is death. And, I think of the quote from Jesus where he says, like, you have to take up your cross and follow me. Like, that's a call almost to, like, you have to die to yourself. You have to die to yourself, like your own desires. You have to die to what you think feels right. And so there is an element of, like dying to yourself in order to love God to the best of your ability. And then I also have this passage here from Ephesians. This is Ephesians 5, verses 1 through 2. And it says, "Therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love as Christ loved us, and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." So there is the element of, Christ's love is centered in his death. And that is like the ultimate display of his love for us, that he went to the cross and died for us. And so I just kind of liked this short and sweet little quote, just, emphasizing the fact that, death, there is an element of death in love, and that we have to die to ourselves. Christ died himself to save us, to demonstrate his love. And so, yeah, that was kind of my little quote there that I enjoyed. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I liked your observation there. That you do have to die to yourself. That is very true. It is very the fallen way of man, the temptations of the flesh. Like, those are things that are daily, like, pulling you to do those things, and you have to say no to those things to say yes to God. And the act of sanctification is like becoming holy and becoming set apart, and we have to leave our worldly ways and the pulls of the flesh behind. So I didn't fully understand why you picked that quote, but your explanation really got me thinking. So cool. Good word there.
Good. Yeah, and I also think, just thinking as you were talking there, like, especially when you're married, like in a marriage relationship, like there is absolutely like an element of dying to yourself. Like, there's so many things that, you were doing whenever you were single that you no longer do now that you're married, because, like, you have to, like, take away that, you have to eliminate as much as you can the selfish parts of yourself so that you can better love your wife. And then there's another element again of that whenever you have kids, where again you and your wife have to take elements of your life together and let them kind of die so that you can fully focus on your child and now be raising him focused on him. And that doesn't mean that those things will be gone forever, but there is an element of like having to take some things that you previously did and eliminate them or have them die or kill them off for a season so that you can most love that new thing effectively. So
yeah, you have to pursue your wife the way, love your wife the way God loved the church, and always
right.
be in pursuit. And yes, and I just have to comment that it's so funny that like we as Christians see that like, yes, we give of ourselves to be with our wives, and there are so many people out there who are just like, hey, just because I'm married doesn't mean that I have to change.
Right.
Like, and that's why we have so many divorces right there. Like, like I used to, and it's just that change from being married from like single. It's just like your time is not your own. Like I used to view it as like a controlling thing. When I would like someone would ask me to do something, hey, like you want to grab like a beer after work or something, I'd be like grudgingly like, oh, I gotta check with my wife. And now it's more like we're on the same team. Like now the posture is more like, hey, let me see if my wife and I like need anything, or like we're gonna figure it out, because like I'm placing our marriage and our relationship as a priority. Where like in like my first marriage and like in the early part of this marriage, like it was kind of like, oh, like I gotta check with my wife, sort of thing. But now it's a different posture, and that's just because I'm following God.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna jump into my quote here.
Yeah, go for it.
So Prince Canute talking to Berserker Bjorn. Let's see. Is there no way to end the pain that is your punishment other than the finality of death? Does our life exist only for us to undergo the burden of your tests, Father in heaven? This is from page 297. So we see Canute getting a little riled up here. He's angry at God. And like, I just felt like he's so focused on like, and it's just like where he is right now in his emotional journey. Like he's lost Ragnar, and he's processing that. And like, I feel like a lot of people who have experienced loss have this kind of anger, like outburst, and as a Christian, like our mindsets need to be like, we are going to live for eternity. But that still doesn't counteract like things like betrayal, like an untimely death. We just have to wait on God's perfect plan, or not perfect plan, but like when we reach heaven, when we're in our glorified bodies, there will be no pain, there will be no hurt, there will be no sorrow or remorse. And we will live like with God and be accepted, and like there is growth in suffering, and that is like one of the one of the toughest things to like combat is the existence of evil. Like when people are speaking, that is probably the hardest argument to tackle when it comes to like being a Christian. Like, if God's out there, why is he letting all this evil happen? And I think that one of the reasons we can look to is like there is growth, and like sometimes your suffering can lead to like improving other people, and like you can share your wisdom. Like I think back on my divorce, and like being a part of the re-engage ministry at our church, and speaking from that position of like being divorced and being in divorce care. Like that was a lot of pain and suffering that I went through, but it has already benefited people, and I'm still going to continue to witness and share my walk with other people. And I can speak into, and I also know reasons why we broke up and everything, or we got a divorce. And like I can use that for God's glory. As I see other people walking in like the same sin patterns that we walked in, and I can, help identify that. This is why I chose this quote, because I just felt like a lot of people get to this point where they're just upset with God, and we kind of need to sometimes recalibrate, refocus, and realize that in the long run, all wrongs will be set right.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, and I mean, like people, they like expect God to just like nowhere in the Bible does it. I mean, it does say that like you'll receive blessings from God, like especially in Proverbs. There's a lot of like if you act a certain way, then these certain things are more likely to happen in your life. And then speaking of like wisdom and stuff, Jesus says like in your life you'll have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world. So like Jesus doesn't promise us that we're going to have a life that's just that doesn't have any kind of suffering or pain or anything in it. And I think people get to these points in their life and they just like they're angry at God. And I mean, I think there is maybe a time like in a lot of the Psalms you have, David lamenting like, why have you forsaken me? Like, why are all these things happening to me? But he's always coming back and saying like, but not my will be done, your will be done. And, he knows that God has a greater plan that is something that we ourselves can't comprehend. And like you were saying, a lot of the times your struggles and your trials in life will later on in your life make it so that you can speak truth into other people who went through similar circumstances, and you can see kind of how you came out of it and how God was with you during that time period. And yeah, it's definitely hard in the moment to like seek God, but like I think in this scene, like Prince Canute has like experienced this tragedy, and instead of going to God like with those things, like he's doing the shaking his fist at God kind of mindset. So I will be interested to see like later on in the story, like if he kind of keeps this mindset, like he's just angry at God for like the rest of his kind of arc, or if he'll kind of have this turnaround where he has the angry phase, but then he turns back to God later, where he's like, I was mistaken in my thoughts here, and I repent of that and I ask forgiveness. So,
and I think he will, just because like earlier, like in our last reading, like he's yelling at people for doubting God,
right?
And I think he does have that deep faith, but again, in moments of like tragic loss, like you turn very human, and and you get mad and you get upset. But I think you're right in that prediction. I think that's a good one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, as always, if you have a favorite quote from this section of the book, leave it down in the comments. And I would love to chat about that with you. And cool, that's our favorite quote section. And now we're going to jump into book discussion. So as we said, we're going to be doing chapters 36 to the end of this hardcover book 3, which is chapter 42. And Gabe is going to kick us off with chapter 36, which is called Two on the Battlefield. And who are the two on the battlefield?
Yeah, so we left off in the first half of this book, and I could just tell Tyler was ready to jump right into the second half. He didn't even want to wait to record, but he did, because he's faithful to the podcast. But yeah, so Thorkel has left Prince Canute and is riding full tilt to save Askeladd because of his pride. He wants to make sure that he is the one who gets to kill Askeladd, and he will defend Askeladd to the death to make sure that he is the one who gets to kill him, which is just such a messed up psychology, but it's really fun to read at the same time. So he arrives on the battlefield, and who is there but Thorkel. So we now have a rematch, Thorfinn versus Thorkel. And like I said earlier, Thorkel is like massive, like feels like he's 8 feet tall, just like superhuman strength. And then you have Thorfinn, who has the blood of Thor's, a true warrior running in his veins. The only person that we learn later that Thorkel has not beaten in battle, or like feels like he couldn't beat. And then I really like how the book opens with like these colorful pictures. Is this the first time we're getting colored pictures in like the beginning section? I think it is.
No, I think at the beginning of all the hardcovers there's colored elements. It's just for some reason in this hardcover the colored elements are in the middle of the book instead of at the beginning.
Yeah, so it was fun to see like Thorfinn and Thorkel in full color at the beginning of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, the epic battle has just begun between Thorfinn and Thorkel, and like all the men are like super excited for the battle. Thorkel makes an offer to Thorfinn during the battle, and he says he's going to tell him about his father if he proves if he can prove he's as good as a fighter as his dad. And meanwhile, while this is going on, they're fighting and having they're starting the battle, and Askeladd's just over there, and he's just like, oh, this isn't good. He's like injured.
Yep.
He, like, if you remember from last time, like he's been fighting like a bunch of different men, and he's just been getting like hits on him slowly and like becoming more and more bloodied, and he's like taking a knee right now. They
shot him. They shot his legs up full of arrows too.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So his legs are like incapacitated.
I feel like that doesn't last that long, but then again, it's a manga.
He's Askeladd. Yeah. He's tough.
He is tough. Just like Thor is standing there like a prickly pine with all the arrows inside of him.
Yeah.
And Ragnar too.
And Boromir.
And Boromir. There we go. Got it in early. Good job, Varum. Okay. And so, like, halfway through this chapter, we're going to have a visitation with Ragnar, where Canute wishes Ragnar had raised him as his own son and bitterly weeps and asks Ragnar not to go. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like an exchange, like in a dream. Canute is just like, as I said earlier, he's just grieving right now, and this is kind of like his moment for closure with Ragnar. Mm-hmm. And he just kind of truly desires that, like, Ragnar was his father. He didn't have the burden of being the king. He could have lived such a happy life as a no-name farmer. And him and Ragnar would have just been the best pair. And Canute is grieving the loss that would not happen, cannot happen, because Ragnar has now passed.
Yep. And I think this is also kind of a time of like his, like it says, like the death of his childhood almost, and the death of his innocence. Like he's now all of a sudden, like he doesn't have his fatherly protective figure there anymore. So now he's almost forced to like assume the role that he like is expected of him to be, like this kingly figure. So like that, like part of his life is now being shed and like dropped away, and now he's becoming like a new man in a sense. So that's an interesting
like
element.
A snake sheds its skin.
Yeah. There you go.
And here's you want the name?
All right, give us the name. Here we go.
All right. So he's gonna shed his skin with Ragnar's death, and out of the old comes the new, Prince Canute the Resolute.
Prince Canute the Resolute.
He becomes very resolute. Like he's like, I am going to do this. This is now my calling. Like he is like resolved in his heart that he is going to do these things. So he is now Prince Canute the Resolute. That's his name.
All right, nickname. Everyone at home, chant it with us. Prince Canute the Resolute. Here we go.
There we go. So this is the birth of Prince Canute the Resolute.
Yes.
So so he's having this dream, and then meanwhile, he's like gonna wake up, and Berserker Bjorn is like crushing 10 men, like in his Berserker. So in the last book, he like popped his mushroom, and he's got the crazy eyes going, like the whole 9 yards, and all these men are like, yeah, we're gonna take him out, but no, they're not. Yep. And he's just going to go crazy, and and
Look at that.
got crazy
Look at that
eyes.
art. Oh man, he's going crazy.
Yeah, I do enjoy the art in this book.
Yeah.
They do a really good job with it. And so finally, at the end of this, we have a conversation between Canute and the priest, which his name is escaping me at the moment. And it ends with a question: what is love? And that's going to take us to the next chapter, where Tyler is going to pick up, and the name of the next chapter is The Definition of Love.
Yes, the definition of love. Yes, this is where we start to get kind of Prince Canute's revelations and his shift in mindset. But before that, we get a little scene here, kind of the aftermath of, because all of Askeladd's men turned on him in the last section of the book, and Thorkel, instead of, assuming them under his own banner, he just decides to kill them all. And unfortunately, the ear is no longer with us.
Oh, yeah, you see his head popped off, unfortunately. But I was like, oh, no, the ear.
So the ear is he's no longer with us, which is too bad. He was a fun character. But you just kind of see them all, like, going through all these, like, mass section of bodies here, and they're all going through and looting them, and they're taking the boots and all of this stuff. And then we get a whole like circle up of all of these different guys, and they're all circled around Thorfinn and Thorkel, and they're in the middle of their duel. And all the people are surprised that it's taking this long for Thorkel to dispose of Thorfinn, and that just shows Thorfinn's skill as a warrior. And he mentions something about, like, you're you're doing a really good job. Like, only a few men could, he says, I could count the number of my men that could stand toe to toe with you on one hand. So he's making a comment of, like, he's saying he's better than most of the people that are in Thorkel's army, which is pretty high praise. And so we kind of get this little showdown, and Thorkel like strips off his little cloak thing that he has, so now he's got his mail armor on, which gave Thorfinn some difficulty the last time they fought, because he has that really difficult chainmail to penetrate. So he's like thinking of all these things, like, I'll have to go for the vital points, I go for his tendons, and like all this stuff, trying to figure out a way to kind of slowly incapacitate him over the course of the fight. And then they kind of stop and have this little conversation. And they're talking about, like, Thorfinn, Thorkel's like, Thorfinn, you're missing something as a warrior. And Thorfinn kind of scoffs at that and like gives it back to him. And then Thorkel's like, exactly, I'm missing something as well as a warrior. And I thought that the son of Thor's could tell me what it is, because, as we'll find out later, he thinks that Thor's found the thing that he is missing, and the thing that makes you a true warrior. And that's his like question to Thorfinn, is what makes a true warrior, which gives Thorfinn all of the flashbacks to his last few moments that he had with his father. And that's something that his father had said: a true warrior doesn't need a sword. And so he's like, he goes into this like daze, and he's like remembering everything, and then he kind of like shakes it off, and he's like, he's like, stop thinking. And he's trying to confuse me, and he's like, he's thinking that Thorkel is doing this on purpose to like throw him off of his game and to make him not pay attention to the fight and all of this stuff. And so they continue to fight, and Thorfinn is dodging and all this stuff, and then at one point Thorkel just gets this like big wheelhouse kick, and he goes to kick Thorfinn, and Thorfinn decides, he like sees the kick coming, and so he does this thing where he like lands on his foot and then like launches himself off of his foot. And while that made him not get kicked, that also made it so that he gets flung like way up into the sky. It seems like, from the picture, it seems like he's gone like 20 feet, 30 feet into the air. I mean, he's pretty high up there.
Oh, I was going to say yeah. But I feel like he also traveled like a quarter mile, like in the air. Like, it's not a short distance. Like, he is far away from the fight, like when he lands.
Yeah. But so yeah, he gets like flung way up into the air and then comes crashing down into these trees and just goes thump. And then Askeladd's like, well, there goes my final pawn, because he thinks that Thorfinn's either dead or he's too much incapacitated that he's not going to be able to help in any way. So that was the Thorkel scene. Just some more kind of battles, and we'll get more of that later on in the book. And then we get a scene change here where we're going back to the priest, and I don't know why. Does he even have a name? I can't even remember what his name is.
I feel like they gave it one time in book 2.
Yeah,
or
probably.
in volume 4, but yeah.
I
feel like when he's first captured, they have a name for him.
Oh well, he's just the priest from now on. So Prince Canute and the priest are having a chat to continue their conversation, because the priest asks, what is true love? And Prince Canute, because he kind of had this thing with Ragnar, and this he thinks that Ragnar loved him, and so he is saying, if Ragnar had no love, and he says, then who in the world does embody real love? And I mean, we can kind of just like walk through this like rationale here, which is kind of interesting. So the priest basically goes on to say that like death is the essence of love, which is from my quote. But he's saying that like people can't love, they can't embody true love. That's basically his point. So he says that this person that's laying on the ground over there that has died, that person is love, because that person, he says, he will not raise a single word in complaint. He will be blown about by the wind. It is death that completes a man. Like saying all these things, basically like men, like he's not going to be doing anything in his life now that is going to be contrary to love. And then Prince Canute kind of comes back with this thing. He's like, well, Ragnar loved me. Like, what Ragnar felt for me? What would you call that? If it's not love, then what is it? And the priest says discrimination. And he says, it's hardly different from the way one swears fealty to a king or whips a slave. And then he goes on and says, to Lord Ragnar, your life was more important than anyone else's, more important than his own, I suspect. For the sake of your one life, he allowed 62 to be sacrificed. He discriminated. So, I don't know, I just wanted to get what is your reaction to just kind of that mentality of, humans they can't love, they can only like discriminate in their love. I just thought it was like an interesting idea, because I do think there is like elements of it that are true, but I think he's kind of like, he's not getting the full picture of, the human experience and us as human beings being made in the image of God. And so I think he's like missing a piece of it. But I just wanted to get, what did you have any thoughts on just kind of this whole scene?
I also felt like the theology kind of fell through here for Christianity.
Right.
I don't think that the priest got it right. This kind of, so if we view God as absolute truth,
Yep.
Like he is the way, the truth, and the light, like God is all things that's good in the universe. And then we have people who are fallen and sinful, and like everything, like the further we get into like our civilization's timeline, the further we go down, the more relativistic everything becomes.
Yes.
Like, and it's only the people who are looking for truth who are going to find it. And like, yes, like love is discriminating because, again, like people have the sin of pride and they always want their thing to happen.
Yes.
They want to have and if their people are in trouble, like they, like a lot of times the ends justify the means. Like we're going to make sure that we get our way, we have the things that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And they forget that when you pursue that line, you're not always in line with what God wants when you are thinking that way. And I think it's a constant battle of like what the world tells you is right and what God tells you is right, and God is absolute truth, and we just have this like side by side comparison, like, oh, this is right to them and this is right to them, and like it's all relative when you are in the world.
Yep.
And that's why it's hard. And the further we get into, like, think about the technology. Me and you are like in the 1950s. Do you know how much it would cost for us to have gotten on the air and created our own like broadcasting station? Yeah. Like, we just buy like like $1,000 worth of equipment and we're up and running.
Yep.
And like we can do all the recordings and all the stuff. They're like, that's basically all you need to
Yep.
start your own like radio show. So and it's just like people are just living in the chatter of like all this stuff, and if they're not seeking God, they're not going to find absolute truth, and they're going to love in a human way. And it's tough to like, like, I don't know if Ragnar had control over those 63 people dying. He seemed pretty much in control of controlled by Askeladd. Like, I don't think that that's a fair assessment of the situation.
Yes.
So this scene kind of fell short, I felt like, on theology, and I'm glad we get a chance to kind of like look at it from our biblical perspective.
Right. Yeah. And I think he's also missing, like, it seems like his perspective is that humans, like, they can't, like, it's not possible for them to love. Like, he's saying, like, they don't love, they discriminate. It's almost like he's putting it in a different category. And he's saying it's not real love. Like, it's like your worldly, it's like a worldly kind of version, like our own personal version of what we think love is to ourselves. Which I think can have elements of truth to it. Like, it is true that we can't love like the way that God loves, where they're saying like
we can't love perfectly.
Right. We can't love perfectly, but because we are made in the image of God, we can see his love that has been displayed to us through his death and resurrection and how he loves us. And so because of that, we can emulate a lot of that love to other people in the world. And I don't think that it's true that all types of human love are just discrimination. I do think that people can have altruistic motives, and I do think that people can be self-sacrificial and love in a way that isn't for their own gain. I do think it's possible, even though it's like that's not the majority of the way people love in our world today. But I do think it's possible, just because we're made in the image of God and we have that implanting of, his character on our hearts in a way, especially if you're a Christian. Like, you have the Holy Spirit, and, he has given you, the Holy Spirit gives you everything you need to live the life that God would want you to live to the best of your ability, keeping in mind that you are a fallen creature. Like you, it's not physically possible for you to keep up all the standards just perfectly the way God would want you to live. But the Holy Spirit makes you capable of making the right decisions and loving in a way that God would say, yes, you are loving the way I would want you to love in the world. So while we can't overcome our own sin nature and love perfectly our whole life, we can definitely make individual decisions and be in certain situations where we do make the right decisions and love in a way that is God honoring. So yeah.
That's a good word.
Very good. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, so I think there's like some other little things here. So Prince Canute kind of goes on this little thing where he says, the sun is love, the sky is love. And he says, the world, God's divine creation, is so brimming with love, yet there is no love in the hearts of men. Which we kind of just talked about, like that. Like, yes, there's an element of truth to that. But I think he's missing, like he's drilling too far down into that, where he's he's maybe making like a blanket statement across like all scenarios, and he's not leaving any room for you know, the Holy Spirit's working in your life to have you make decisions. So he's basically like, it seems like he's just forgetting that the Holy Spirit exists. And if you're a Christian, then you do have the Holy Spirit within you. Like, it almost seems like and later on he seems like he's just talking to God directly, and he's forgetting to have the Holy Spirit work in that relationship. So that seems maybe where he's maybe falling short in terms of his relationship with God, is he's just missing that element. Yeah, and then they kind of end this thing where they talk about, we were exiled from paradise, just referencing, Adam and Eve, because they turned their backs on God and they sinned. And that kind of ends that little scene. And then we do get to go back to Thorfinn. We see him falling. He's kind of getting up and he's very wounded. And then we have, I don't remember this character's name, one of the guys that betrayed Askeladd, and his brother was the one who saw Thorkill when like his like brain broke. We talked about that in the last episode. But yeah, that's where we end that chapter. And I'll actually just do chapter 38 quick as well, because it's pretty short. It's called Out of the Cradle, and this is where we kind of get the final battle scenes with Berserker Bjorn here, as his mushroom seems like it's starting to wear off after he's defeated everybody and there's nobody else to fight. And we actually get an interesting scene here with Prince Canute and Birker and Bjorn, where Bjorn is like coming over and he seems like pretty crazy, and the priest guy is like, yeah, he won, but he's also lost his sanity. And this kind of goes in again to kind of Prince Canute's kind of revelations here. He says, we're the same. We're all the same. None of us understands what it means to love all. And he's saying like nobody is sane, essentially. He says, where in this world can a sane man be found? And he's like, no one understands the meaning of life, the meaning of death, or the meaning of our own battles. And he's like, enough, I'm sick of this. And then this is where we have like the final kind of, in the next chapter, he's going to talk to, he's going to kind of, he almost says, the priest seems to think that it's some kind of miraculous thing that's happening. But this chapter also just plays into the fact that Prince Canute has like lost all faith in humanity, and he seems to have like, it almost seems like he has taken away the image of God aspect to humanity. He's just taken all of humanity and just bumped it down a peg, so where it's no longer, it's like almost like he's taken away the image of God part of humanity and just said it's just like they're the same as just creatures, and and they can't make right decisions, and they don't understand the meanings of their own life and the meaning of death and the meaning of their own battles. And yeah, I just think that he's just in this like weird kind of mindset where he's going through so much grief and pain. Maybe he's not like, again, like I think his theology is a little bit off, so maybe he's not like thinking everything through kind of properly. And I don't know who this priest is, but I don't know if I agree with how he's kind of, seems like he's leading Prince Canute down this like theological path, which is like not correct. And yeah, I don't know.
He's also a drunkard, like priest.
Yeah, a drunk priest.
I don't know if he's like the model example of like a good priest.
That's true. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's that chapter.
Plenty of priests like that in history. So. Yeah,
that is true. Yeah. Did you have any thoughts on chapter 38 here? Just those those kind of little things. Yeah, it wasn't a very long chapter. It was like a pretty short.
Yeah,
thing.
It wasn't a very long chapter. No, not really.
Cool. Well, then Gabe's going to pick it up with us on chapter 39, which is The King Awakens.
Oh, yes. Prince Canute the Resolute. So
say it with us, everybody.
So we open with Canute and Bjorn, and Canute soothes the berserker rage out of Bjorn, and I think it's just he's like become calm. And this is where I I wrote in the notes here that Prince Canute, he has now become resolute, and that's where his nickname came from. It's from this part of the discussion. Um,
Yep.
so after Bjorn has been like calmed down and relax, and like he's coming out of the berserker rage, we're gonna flash over to Thorfinn, and he's coming back to consciousness. We saw him like kind of falling out of the tree, and I just really enjoyed this animation that was with him like coming back to consciousness. Like it's a series of frames where like things are like kind of like out of focus, and then he's like, what am I doing? Like, oh yeah, I'm in like the middle of a fight right now. Yeah, and so I enjoyed that animation, and Thorkel tells him to clean himself up, and Thorfinn gets angry, and he's up, he's ready to fight, and then all of a sudden they have this animation of his like arm just like breaking, and then like it says like the word dangle. And it's just like, oh, that would be so terrible if you were like if you're holding your arm up and then all of a sudden your arm just like broke off like in the middle of your forearm and just was dangling. I was like, oh. So that was an inch. Like, I just love that they use the onomatopoeia dangle, or like, I guess it's not really onomatopoeia, but just like just the word dangle there.
Yeah, I don't remember what the phrase. What's onomatopoeia again?
When you make a word from a sound, like bang, or pow,
or purr.
Yep, those are all good onomatopoeias. But yeah, so dangle was just interesting there. It just made me feel like, oh, like his arm is barely working. So while Thorfinn is getting patched up by Askeladd to kind of continue the fight, even though he's like got his dangle arm going on, Thorkel starts to tell Thorfinn a story about his father.
And now it's time for story time with Thorkel.
Great Uncle Thorkel.
Yes, that is true.
Yep, so good old great Uncle Thorkel is going to tell him about the good old days of the Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
So Thor's was like very strong, and he impressed, what's this guy's name? Sigvaldi?
Yeah, Sigvaldi. Yep, that's right.
Sigvaldi. And he impressed him so much that he gave Helga to him, making him the Joms Viking chieftain, Thorfinn's grandpapa. So he kind of has like, I don't know if it's like a royal bloodline, but
yeah, it is.
So it's like the chieftain is like the royal bloodline. So that blood is running in Thorfinn's veins, and he never knew this. All right. And then in the battle of, I'm going to try it.
Oh, here we go.
Jorungavagar. I think the H is silence.
Yeah, it might be silent. That's pretty good.
I'm going to try it again.
We'll go with it.
Jorungavagar. Thor's was lost at sea.
Or is it Jorungavar?
Jorungavar. That's faster.
Jorungavar.
Trying to do it phonetically. Just trying to do it phonetically. And
if anyone's fluent in Danish or knows Norse, it seems like it's a Norse kind of phrase.
Please help us. That's the message here.
Yes.
Please help us pronounce this. Yeah, so Thor's was lost at sea, and Thorkel's wept. He was sad to lose Thor's. And then, in the dark of one evening, Thorkel sees Thor's one last time.
He does.
And I'll turn it over to. Or was there anything in this chapter that I missed that you thought would be good to like bring up or talk about?
Yeah, there was more with Prince Canute. There was a scene at the beginning of the chapter where he has this like internal prayer, it seems like, on page 300, where he says, "Father, I no longer seek your salvation, If you will not give it to us, then we will have no choice but to recreate paradise with our own hands. That's just an interesting prayer, because it seems like he's almost like turning himself away from his faith. Like he's not going to seek out salvation through God, and instead he's going to seek out salvation for himself and create his own form of paradise here on earth. And it seems like he's basically rejecting God's way, and he's saying, I'm just going to do it myself, because you, God, are obviously not going to help me or give me the salvation that I have been seeking my whole life. And
the one that I want, not the one that you're giving me, but the
right.
one that I want.
Right. And I think in a previous scene, this is where your quote was from, where he says, "Does our life exist only for us to undergo the burden of your tests? This man's soul cannot be saved with your trials." Which, I mean, yeah, that's true. His soul can't be saved by going through trials. Your soul is saved by trusting in the name of Jesus. And so again, I just think like his theology is just twisted, and he's not understanding completely what is required to achieve salvation. And maybe he did understand it previously, but through the things that happened in his life, he has either forgotten it, or maybe it's just from, maybe he's been talking to the priest, and maybe the priest is a little off. And it just seems to me like he is walking away from the faith in this moment. And like he's basically just like he's casting off the like his Christian identity, and he's going to like put on a new identity as, a kingly figure and almost like a savior type figure for the Danish people. Because like as he goes on, we'll talk about this later in the book, like he's like coming as like, I'm gonna bring everybody together, and we're all gonna follow me, and now it's gonna be all about him. Whereas before it was not all about him. It was all about God, and it was all about doing what's right. And it just seems like he's becoming now more self-centered and more focused on what he can do to create his own little earthly paradise, instead of doing what God wants him to do. So again, just another layer of that kind of transition from the nice little Christian Prince Canute who wanted to do the right thing, and now he's become this new kind of person who, doesn't watch his words anymore. He, I think there will be good things about this transition where he'll be like a better leader in some instances, but I think the things that he's losing will maybe make him a bad leader, because now as a leader, he's not going to be looking to God for his leadership, and he's going to be looking to just himself for leadership. And so, yeah, I think there's some maybe good things in this transition, but ultimately I think it's going to be a bad transition. And yeah, we'll have to just wait and see what happens with that. So that was the only thing that I liked from that chapter.
That was a good spot. He definitely is kind of looking more towards his own works, because I think we are like supposed to be bringing heaven to earth, like as in acting like Christians, living in community as Christians, and
right.
like giving that experience of love to people in a community. Mm-hmm. I think that's what we are called to do, but the way that Canute is going about it, he wants to do it his way, and right. like not God's way. And I think that's what you're kind of speaking towards, and that's just gonna lead him down the wrong path. So we will see. Only time will tell if if his motives like realign with God's.
Yep.
Or if he continues along this path of, I'm just going to call it self-righteousness. Like, I will be the one who will bring order and peace and love.
Yes.
It will be my actions that bring these things, not like...
Yep.
God. And the other posture is, God has given me these things, and I need to take care of them. I need to make them flourish. I need to invest in the things. I need to stand up for what is right. That's kind of the posture that you have, that we would like to see Prince Canute have if he's going to be acting as a Christian. And right now he's kind of going down the other path of, it will be me. I will gather my forces. I will bring justice to this land, and I will,
Right.
enact, make sure that things are set right and done the way that I see them.
Yep.
So, good things can be done, but it's all about your posture to God. And if you proclaim, God is your Lord and Savior with your lips and believe it in your heart, then you can be saved and go to heaven and spend eternity there.
Yeah, good word. So the next chapter we have, as Gabe mentioned, is basically we're going to be getting a flashback chapter here where we have Thor's showing up at Jomsborg, home of the Joms Vikings in 987 AD. And it's basically he's going into this little house, and he's going to get his wife, Helga, and their son. And Thorkel is like sitting on the top of their roof because I think Thorkel and Thors were very good friends with one another, and because Thors went missing, Thorkel probably feels like an obligation to watch over his wife and son, and so that's probably why he's sitting up there, kind of standing guard and watching over them to make sure that one of his best friend's family is taken care of. Which, I mean, I like Thorkel as a character. I think he has a lot of honor, and he's very loyal. It seems like, and sure. I like a lot of elements about his character. And so you see this on display in this section here. And so he notices Thor's. Well, he doesn't know it's Thor's at the time, but he thinks that someone is just kind of coming in here and trying to take somebody away. And then Thor's reveals himself, takes down his hood, and then Thorkel is like, how are you? We thought you were all gone. We had a funeral. We had all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, you got to come back to the fold. It's going to be great to have you back around and all this kind of stuff. And then Thor's is like, we're not going to be staying. We're not going to meet the chief. We're going to be leaving. And we're going away. And this does not compute for Thorkel. He doesn't understand why. And he's asking Thorkel to not say anything and just keep it under wraps that they have come here and they have now left, and that Thors is still alive. Because at this point, now Thorkel is the only person besides his wife that knows that Thors is still alive. And yeah, I mean, they kind of have these conversations, and Thors is kind of explaining. He says, I have finally learned what it means to be a true warrior, and that is why I can no longer be here. And Thorkel says this was the moment that he realized that Thors was serious, because he saw it in his eyes. He just had this well,
that's important to note, that there's that resolution in Thor's eyes, because we're gonna see that later.
Right. I was gonna use the word resolute, but I was like, we can't use resolute. That's Prince Canute's word.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was like, I've never forgotten that look. And then we get the we have some guards that come over. There's this really weird looking. I'll just show this to you. It's this weird looking image of Thorkel where he's like, I said go back. He just had this
Mm-hmm.
weird face where he's screaming at these guards to go back because they haven't seen Thor's face yet. And Thorkel he's honorable and loyal to Thor's as a friend, that he's not going to betray him in this moment, even though he doesn't necessarily understand all of his motivations and reasons for leaving. He's going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say, I don't really understand or necessarily agree with your decision in this moment, but because of all the things that we went through and the history that we have in the past, and because he respects him as a warrior, I think he's just saying, I mean, I don't think this is the right decision, but I'm going to let you make that on your own, and you can make that decision if you want to, and I'm not going to stand in your way. Which, again, is a good... Yeah, Thorkel is just... I think he's just a very... Yeah, he's just honorable, and he's like a good friend, and he doesn't... I think he's trying... Like he's... And he mentions that previously, like he's missing something as a warrior, so I still think like he's like searching for that thing that he's missing, and like a lot of his life has probably been since this moment, you know, what was Thor's talking about? That's probably just like been in the back of his mind for years at this point.
Definitely, because he's confessing it to Thorfinn. He's definitely been dwelling on it for years and years.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just interesting. Hopefully we get some more of Thorkel. I'm loathing the part of the book where he dies. Not that it doesn't happen in this book, but I don't want that to be... It might happen in the future stories, but it's that'll be very sad if Thorkel ever dies.
Yeah.
And then we kind of, at the end of this scene here, we get the thing where he says, Thorkel says, "Where is your sword?" And then he says, "I don't need it." And he like bats away, because like he swings his axe at him and he bats it away. And he actually, it's like he snaps his axe half, like his shaft in half. And now they're in hand-to-hand combat and all of this kind of stuff. And after that, he basically knocks Thorkel out. And then he woke up the next morning and they were gone. And yeah, I don't know. What did you think of that whole kind of Thor's flashback scene?
Yeah, I kind of built out the Thor's character. We still don't know what caused him to become this family man, but you can see that it has taken over, like his soul and his posture towards Helga has changed, because if you think back to book 1 where the baby's first born and he's like, how do you hold this thing? And they're like, don't dangle the baby, like support the neck. Like, he has obviously become a changed man, and we still don't know what is the critical moment where that like change has taken place in Thor's, but we see that he is the different man here. He is the man that's going to be raising Thorfinn. Right. That's the Thor's that we know, but we still don't really know what caused him to change over. So yeah, it was some good world building and like well, not so much world building, but like
character development.
Yeah, character development for Thor's and Thorkel.
Yep.
Yeah, I enjoyed that chapter.
Well, yeah, and you mentioned that scene in the first book, and I do think that maybe was one of the moments, because there is that scene where he was doing like the, you know, thanks for having the baby, I'm going to go off to war, bye, kind of all this thing. Yeah. And then Helga like screams at him, like, you will come back here right now and you will name this child. And I think that was one of the moments where he looked his child in the face and just like seeing like that, like that's his kid and like he's now responsible for him. I think that's like a moment, or at least one of the moments probably, that started to turn him, be like, wow, I'm a father now. Like I can't, like if I go off to war and I die, like who's going to raise my kid? Who's going to take care of my wife? You know, all this kind of stuff is probably running through his head. And I mean, I'm sure you had, you know, similar thoughts like that whenever you first became a father. Like you might need to change some of the things that you do, the way that you live, so that you can be a better role model for your kid.
All the time.
Like we mentioned previously, like parts of yourself probably have to die so that you can be a better father, a better husband, better follower of God. So I do think that was probably one of the moments in his life that started that shift, although it probably wasn't the only one.
And, you know, when I became a father, like, there is this part where, like, I forget the exact quote from scripture, but it's just saying, like, how can you love God if you can't love someone, like, in your own life? And I feel like loving my daughter has taught me more about God. Just, I am experiencing love. And, you know, I was in the Re-Engage, and one of our co-leaders said, like, you know, my best advice to dads, you know, dads of, like, little girls is, like, be everything that you want her future husband to be. And so that just calls me to, like, like even when I'm not feeling it, like to be there for her, to indulge her, and like,
Mm-hmm.
in all the things that are like, I love indulging my daughter. She always wants to like, we always do like 5 more minutes. Like I want to take a bath. Like 5 more minutes. Okay, and we set a timer, and then she gets her 5 more minutes, and then like, because I mean, who cares? 5 minutes. Like I don't need to be.
Yeah.
Like when it's important, we will start asking her to do things. But yeah, and then back to just my love for my daughter. Like she opened my heart in like a new way that I
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand was possible, and I just like think about how much I love her, and it's a different love from my wife because I love my wife, but I love my daughter in a different way because I'm in charge of her, and
Right.
I'm in a different like relationally it's different. I'm the parent and she's the child, and then you just like they're so young and so innocent and so fun and so loving, and it's just like I have so much love for this little girl, and I'm supposed to love God. Like if God calls me, like I need to drop her, like like she's nothing and walk towards God, and like
Yeah.
not like she's nothing. You can still love her like so very much, but like you still have to love God more. And like I worry that I love like my daughter like um and again like she's the only person that I'm biologically related to that I know, so that's different. I don't know if I've disclosed that on this podcast that I'm adopted, and
Right.
this and my daughter's the only person biologically that I know.
Mm-hmm.
So, she like our connection is different, and we
Yeah.
love each other very much, and I have to love God more, and that worries me because I do love her so very much, and then I'm like, man, and then that's instructive to me. How do I take this love that I have for my daughter and then apply that towards God and just say, Lord, thank you for these moments. Like you are the one who makes me like gives this opportunity to me to be a dad, to love my daughter, and like I just have to take that love that I have for my daughter and then just give it up to God and just be like, man, you are the best God, and I love you so much
Yeah.
for giving me this opportunity. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely could be the starting point, Tyler. Good eye there.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah. That's a good word. Thank you for sharing that. Um, Cool. So that concludes story time with Thorkel. And then we go back to the scene with the fighting ring, and Thorkel's basically just been waiting for Askeladd to kind of patch Thorfinn up a little bit so they can resume their duel. And he mentions this thing where he says, what's important to a warrior is the soul and where it lies. And then he says, speaking of Thor's, he says, his soul had gone far away. I still don't understand it. I can't reach him. Wherever it is, it's not here. But that must be where he finally became a true warrior. So that's kind of the conclusion. We get to the Thorkel's reminiscing of Thor's. And yeah, I mean, so I guess he's saying his discovering of the true warrior makes it so like he has went somewhere that he can no longer reach him, and maybe that's I guess Thorkel is always talking about the afterlife and Valhalla, and it seems like Thor's vision of the afterlife is Vinland. And so it seems like maybe there's like a difference in terms of maybe where his soul is. Like Thor's soul is in Vinland, and Thorkel is still focused on Valhalla. And so maybe that's like the disconnect that he's sensing in his life, where he's no longer seeing. Maybe he would feel connected to Thor's if he had seen him die in battle or something, and he would always have like that piece of him with him. But he doesn't have that anymore because Thor's went to a different place. So I don't know, interesting kind of tidbit there. But then we kind of have we return to the Askeladd and Thorfinn stuff, and they kind of get their Askeladd like ties up this like sling little thing to help Thorfinn, and then they basically they're going to start to resume their duel. And there's kind of like this little conversation that him and Askeladd have before they start. It's like funny. You see like Thorkel doing his stretches, like just going to get ready for another battle here, because he's always just so happy to have a fight.
He is. He really is.
And yeah, so Askeladd's like, I'll tell you how to beat the guy. And Thorfinn's like, I don't want to hear any tips from you. And he's like, remember why you're fighting, so you can beat me in a duel, right? And so this is like, Thorfinn's like, oh yeah, I need to remember like why I'm here. I came all this way to fight Thorkel so that I could save Askeladd, so that I could just kill him later. So it's like coming back to reality of like what his main reasoning for being here is. And so this is he's decided that he's going to listen to Askeladd so that he can get the chance to actually defeat Thorkel. So that is where we end chapter 40, and we move on to chapter 41, United Front. Here we go.
Yeah,
I feel like we've been going slower in these chapters. There's just like a lot of like little things to pick up on in terms of the characters and the and the plot development and the story development. So
yeah, for sure,
we're taking our time on this one.
Yeah. So Thorfinn has been bandaged up by Askeladd, and he's been told the secret on how to defeat Thorkels. And you can see Thorfinn, he's like all bandaged up, and like his arm is bandaged in a way that it's like he is fighting with one arm tied behind his back, quote unquote. It's actually like bandaged to his side, but he is fighting one-handed against Thorkel the monster, who is still like basically uninjured right at this point. So it's definitely like the odds are not ever in his favor. So his fighting becomes like more sporadic. And then finally he's like Thorfinn is like disarmed by Thorkel. And at this point, Thorkel is disappointed. He's disappointed in Thorfinn because he was expecting him to live up to Thor's. And so Thorfinn is down, and Thorkel is moving him for the kill and telling him that he's disappointed in him. Just when Thorkel is about to kill Thorfinn, Askeladd uses his sword to reflect the sun into Thorkel's eyes, and Thorfinn pops up and delivers a roundhouse kick to Thorkel's neck. So there's this Thorfinn springs into life. He does this kick, and then there's just like this moment where you're like, what's going to happen? And then Thorkel falls down stunned, and Thorfinn is on him like white on rice. And the animation is just like, Thorfinn is going crazy, and then he so Thorfinn has his legs wrapped around Thorkel, and he just goes for the eye gouge. He just like goes in there with his hand and like goes right in for his eye, and just like the brutality of the scene is just like crazy. But Thorfinn is torn off of Thorkel by the band of men, but not before, he gets to gouge out his eye with his bare hand. And Thorkel gets to his feet, and what does he do? He rebukes his men for bringing disgrace upon him. He's like, how dare you shame me in this way? Going back to your observation, Tyler, that he's just full of honor. And that he's got like the right way of like looking at things, and
because his men were trying to kill Thorfinn because they didn't want Thorkel to die. Yeah,
they basically say that he's the only one who can keep them like banded together. He's the only one strong enough and smart enough to do that. But before things can get too out of hand, Prince Canute the Resolute arrives on scene.
He does.
And all eyes turn to him.
Yes.
And he tells them to stop fighting and wasting their lives. Because he has a better idea. So before we depart from this chapter, is there anything in here that you want to highlight or talk about?
I don't think so. It was a pretty straightforward chapter. It was just kind of the conclusion of the battle, or the duel, I guess you could say. Yeah, I mean, I think this is like it shows Thorfinn is having an element of patience, because he doesn't really like to, like, he was taking Askeladd's advice to kind of, make it seem like he's being defeated, so that there could be a window of opportunity for this, final kind of dash and this kick to kind of to get the better of Thorkel. Whereas I don't think if he wouldn't have taken that advice, Thorfinn probably would have just gotten killed. So I think that's maybe like just a tiny bit of element of growth in Thorfinn, to be like, I don't have to just like go full tilt all the time. I can, take a second to like think about what I want to do, what would be the best strategy to take this fight on and win in a way that's, maybe more efficient, instead of just go and just attack all the time. So maybe just a slight element of growth from Thorfinn, showing some maybe delayed gratification, which is good. So but yeah, that's all I had for that one. And then we get to the last chapter, which is called Verdict. And essentially we have Prince Canute confronting, he just kind of comes into the group here, and all of his men are just kind of talking, and they're like giving him like all these advices. And Thorkel, like, he does not like it when his men like interfere with anything that has to do with his honor, his leadership. He's just like, let me just do it just stop trying to tell me what to do. Stop trying to give me advice. He's like, I got it under control, everybody. He just gets very frustrated. He's like, shut up. Ah, like all this stuff. And he goes like crazy. He's like, I know these, he's like, you don't need to tell me what to do. All this kind of stuff. And, so yeah, I think let's get to the section here where he sits down. He's like, I need some mead. He's getting patched up. And Prince Canute is going to come with like his kind of offer here. So he says, I desire sled and food. And he says, I will see that you are justly repaid for it later. And
Thorkel is looking pretty messed up at this point. His hair has changed. Yeah. His eye is all bloodied up, and like he's looking rough.
Well, I think his eye is gone, right? He's not going to have his eye anymore.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, there's blood smeared like down his face from his lost eyeball, and like his hair has changed animations. Like it's no longer.
Yeah, he's like in a different state. Like he's no longer everything's great, we're just gonna have a battle, it's gonna be fun. He's kind of in this like news. He seems like his hair is just like really crazy. He seems like he's just like maybe he's in a different frame of mind right now, because of all the stuff that happened with his men and trying to interfere. And he just seems like he's a little bit frazzled, a little bit jazzed up. And so Prince Canute is his basic I guess what would you call it, proposition. His basic proposition is that he wants to unite all of the forces together under his banner, and that they are going to go and take on King Sven, because he understands that his father wants him dead, essentially, and that he wants to give the throne to his younger brother, which was I'm blanking on his brother's name right now. Can't remember. But like the favored brother. Right. What was it?
Oh, I was just saying, yeah, it's the favored brother. I'll see if I can figure out his name here.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like, I'm part of the line of succession to the Danish throne. He's like, I have a right to claim it. And so he's basically saying, like, if you join me, like, we're going to go and we're going to take on King Swen. And do you remember his, like, why he decided to just go with, in the end, Thorkel decides to go and join with the side of Prince Canute. I don't remember specifically why he made that decision.
Oh, it's because he saw the resolute in Prince Canute.
Okay,
so
yeah. Expand upon that for us, will you?
Yeah, so, you know, you wanted to use that word to describe Thor's, and there's this interesting frame where it has Thorkel is looking at Prince Canute, but then behind him in the frame there is like a picture of Thor's, and it's like he is seeing, like, it's on page 420.
Oh, right, yeah.
I've seen that look before, and like he's seeing Prince Canute, who is now resolute, and he is also seeing Thor's at the same time. And so he's recognizing that there is a depth of character inside of Canute, and it's going to cause him to have a change of heart to follow Canute because he sees greatness inside of him, just like he saw greatness inside of Thor's. It's interesting how you can have this in, like, you know, like, you have, like, this very multifaceted story being told, like Canute's being sent out to, you know, his death, and he's been captured, and then he was captured by Askeladd, and now Askeladd, every single person of Askeladd's troop is dead, so Askeladd's whole initiative is only going to be carried forward by him and Thorfinn, and Thorfinn's kind of like an unwilling participant in all of Askeladd's machinations. And then Thorkel has been the pursuing force, and now he's going to join with Canute, and he's in charge of Askeladd. So they're all united under Canute, which is not what you see coming, and it's like all of these forces are like united under Canute now. So yeah, it's just an interesting turn of events here.
Yeah, I definitely did not see this
playing out the way it did.
Yeah, I just thought there would be. I mean, I thought Thorfinn was going to kill Thorkel in the duel, because I don't think Thorfinn's like the main character, so I don't think he can die, at least not this early in the story. I'm not sure. I guess Thorfinn is the main character for the whole series. I think is what happens. So. I don't think he can really die at all. But yeah, I did not.
He's gonna be You think he's wearing that plot armor all the way to the end?
Yeah, I think Thorfinn has plot armor to the very last chapter, and then they can kill him. Yeah. So, but yeah, I agree. I did not think that this was going to turn out the way it was, the way it happened, and then you get this like weird scene where this whole decision has been made, and then. Askeladd just starts belting out in hysterical laughter. Like, I'm imagining like a Joker kind of laugh. Like he's kind of like lost his marbles a little bit. Kind of like not like how is this
It's like possible? Maniacal laughter. Like like kind of crazy.
Yeah. And then Thorkel's like, "Oh, he's still here?" And Askeladd's like, "Oh, I mean, he's still very wounded from all of these things." And then he decides to come over and he gives his sword to Prince Canute as like I will be on your side kind of a thing. And even though, and he actually does admit that Ragnar's death was his doing. And that's pretty bold that he would just come out with that. Like, he's like basically just throwing himself at the feet of Prince Canute, being like, I'm just going to bring it out onto the table and say, here's what I did. It was wrong. Bad decision. I don't know if he actually thinks it was a bad decision, but maybe in this moment he's just saying, I'm going to throw myself down at Prince Canute's feet in hopes that he will let me live so I can, you know, live another day. And because we kind of got his motivations in the earlier part of this book and also in the second book. So I think he obviously wants to stay alive so that he can fulfill that like part of his goal. So I think in this moment he just feels like this is what he has to do so that he can stay alive a little bit longer. Because I think maybe in his mind, like if that information that he killed Ragnar came out later and not from him, or in I guess everybody else from his troop is dead, so I don't know who else could say something, but yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting that he would just...
It's trying to gain trust here. He's extending information that he's not in any way required to, and he's kind of like, he's playing a game. You know, he's falling on the king's mercy. And, you know, Askeladd has his special ability, and his special ability is to understand who people are, like, meeting them at first glance. And so he has, you know... It's kind of like it's a supernatural power that he can read people this well. And so he's playing the game. He's like, if this kid's in charge, I'm going to throw myself at his feet. He's going to be merciful. And now I'm in with him. And now I can start my plotting and scheming yet again.
Yep. Yeah, and then at the very end he says, you know, I have no choice but to let bygones be bygones. And then Canute says, if you will follow, then do so. We march to drag King Sven off his throne. And so that's where we end this hardcover book and chapter 42 of Vinland Saga. And
whoop, whoop.
Here we go. Yeah. We finished that. And yeah, I mean, I'm just loving Vinland Saga. It's been, I'm super happy that we started this on the podcast, and just seeing the plot twist and the character development and the backstories with Thors and Thorkel and all of that kind of stuff. It's just been really fun to, you know, see how all of those story elements play out. And I also just love like seeing characters, you know, start in this kind of mindset, and then something happens to them, and then they have this kind of mindset shift, like that whole thing with Prince Canute in terms of like where he started this section of the book at and where he ended up at the end of this book is like complete night and day difference between it's almost like a different character completely. And so yeah, just what will happen with him in the next chapters and the next volumes. Like, will he succeed taking on King Sven? Like, what will happen with that? It's just going to be very interesting to see what happens. So do you have any... I know you're not really a prediction guy, but do you have any thoughts on...
I like to do predictions. It's just interesting, like, you know, when we do Wheel of Time and I've heard it, and then there's all this, you know, information percolating in my, like, unconscious mind, like, informing my conscious mind of, like, you know that she's Lanfear, but not really that she's Lanfear. So this is fun to speculate. I mean, I think Canute is going to, you know, he's kind of like the character that we're following. I feel like it's going to be a pitched battle, but I think he's going to take out Sven. I think he's going to claim the throne.
Yeah.
And then the whole while, you know, I could see like Thorkel becoming like his vassal. You know, and then Askeladd is just going to be plotting. Like that's how he rolls.
Does he got plans within plans?
Yeah, I think he's revising the plan. I think he's writing the first set of plans so that later he can have the plans within plans. So he's at that first. He's at the first level of plans. Right. So he's going for the plans within plans, but right now he's just got plans. He's got the start of a plan. I don't even think he has plans yet, because like this situation, like he's not in charge of like what's going to happen next. Like it's all on Canute.
Right.
But he is like working his way closer to, you know, the seat of power. And that is going to afford him, and that's why I think Canute's going to win, because like it will put Askeladd in a place where he can do his machinations and start
Yeah.
planning and plotting and stuff. So, what about you? Any thoughts on what's to come in book 4?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just hard. It's just hard to predict because you don't know. I mean, I assume they're gonna start like consolidating some power. They're gonna probably try to get more men. Because King Swen, I mean, he's probably got more men to pull from, and so they're probably gonna have to get more soldiers to compete with him. And I am interested to meet Prince Canute's brother, who's the favored brother. I don't remember his name at the moment, but yeah, just seeing like what's his deal. Does he want the throne? Like, does he hate his brother Canute? Like, what's their dynamic like? So yeah, just seeing more family dynamics of the Canute family. I don't know what their last. I guess Canute's his first name. So the Swen, Canute, and then the other brother dynamic, like what is that all about? Maybe the younger brother doesn't want the throne. So, I mean, that could be an interesting plot twist where maybe the younger brother unites with Canute and they both go and they take on their father or something like that. That might be interesting. Or they could just make his younger brother like really kind of evil and he does hate his brother Canute and he does want him dead. And so that might be an interesting kind of villain kind of arc. Or maybe Prince Canute has to overcome that, and maybe he has to. Does he have to face his brother one-on-one combat and kill him, or I don't know. What's going to be interesting, and also like the theological element with Canute, like what's going to happen with that? Is he going to turn back to God? Is he going to still kind of keep on this path of forsaking his faith and trying to do it all on his own? Maybe there'll be an element of like he's trying to do it on his own and he can't do it, and he's going to fail, and he's going to have to turn back to God, and then that will allow him to. Succeed. I don't think this is necessarily like a Christian book, so I'm not really like banking on it being like, he has to turn back to God so that he can, succeed in his efforts or whatever. I don't really think that's something that would happen. But yeah, just seeing like the interesting kind of dynamic with that faith will be, something to look forward to.
So I've been looking while you were talking. Prince Harold.
Harold, right. Nice. Thank you for getting that for us as a reminder.
Page 68. Yep. Found
68.
It. Took a moment. Yep. I was, almost.
Cool.
Like 350 pages ago. So.
Yeah, and that was the last section we read, so that wasn't this section at all.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, those are my kind of thoughts for the next kind of chapters of the book, so definitely looking forward to it. And yeah, thank you guys for joining us on this Vinland Saga journey. And yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to the point where I can watch the anime version, so I can see it kind of in visual form. Because I don't want to.
Oh, no spoilers.
Yeah,
no
I'm not gonna watch that until I've reached the point where I've caught up to the story. So that's my.
Do you know which point that is?
I think it's around chapter 55. 56, something like that.
Hey, we're getting close. We're in the 40s.
I think after book 4 we'll be pretty close to that point.
And then will you be allowed to start?
I will allow myself to watch the anime version of the manga.
Oh, and then we'll have to do a comparison like we did with Wheel of Time.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it might be pretty faithful because I feel like it's different as well because. Like this is already like drawn, so like they already have a lot of the character styles and like all the movements, and I don't know how much of it they could really change to make it feel different, because I don't really want them to just change elements of the story just for reasons. Like I hate it when there's shows that are adaptations of books and they just make changes to the storyline that have literally no purpose and they don't add anything to the story, and it's like why would you even make that change? There were some of those things like in Wheel of Time that I'm just like, why did you have to do that? Like with Perrin's, like why did Perrin have a wife who he killed in the first episode of the series? Like why is that even a thing? Perrin's not even married in the book. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have anybody until the book we're reading now is when he first starts to get romantically interested in somebody, which is book 4. And so that's just like, why did you have to make that change? I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. So sorry. Side quest tangent thingy complete. We didn't have one for the rest of the episode, or early in the episode, so we got to get one in now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. That's that's where we'll end it. The next episode, if I'm looking at my schedule here, we have the next book we're going to be doing is Speaker for the Dead, which is book 2 in the Enderverse saga, which is a book that I've wanted to read for a while, so I am excited to get into that book. I have to finish Wheel of Time first, because as we're recording this, we're recording Vinland Saga before we've finished recording all of the Wheel of Time episodes, and then we'll go to Speaker of the Dead after we finish recording the Wheel of Time. So we're recording out of order from whenever they are releasing, if that makes sense. But yeah, do you have any thoughts on Speaker for the Dead? Are you looking forward to that book?
It is a book I have not read. I love Orson Scott Card. He is a playwright, so he will be much more to the point than Robert Jordan, so it will be a much faster read.
Yeah, that's true.
That'll be nice. Because Wheel of Time is a grand adventure, but it also, if you are digging into the material, there is plenty there.
Yeah.
So, we do. So, I'm looking forward to it.
Cool. Well, if you want, you can pick up that book and read along with us. We'll probably do a similar thing where we read half the book, and then in the first part, and then the second half. This part 2 will be the second half of the book. So if you pick up the book, you can probably read just take the chapter number and split it in half, and then that will probably be what we do for the part 1 of the podcast. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching and joining us in this episode. As always, you can check out Pages of Light on our social platforms, and also go to YouTube and subscribe over there so you can check out the video version of the podcast and check out the other videos on the channel. And you can also support the podcast by leaving us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. So that helps other people find the content, and just, let us know why you like the podcast and what you feel like what you get out of it. It'd be nice to read some of those reviews from you guys. All right, that's going to do it. Thank you very much for watching. Remember to keep reading and to share the gospel with somebody this week, and we will see you in the next episode. See ya.
See you next time.